Welcome to Ideas That Come Easy, the no-stress way to generate blog and social content. My name is Carrie Rollagan, and I'm Vice President of Strategic Planning here at Infomedia. Before that, I was Director of Communications here, and before that, I was a copywriter, both for Infomedia and for other companies. I worked with big corporations like Southern Progress, and then I've worked with mom and pops like the small business I started, Church Street Coffee and Books. So I've had a lot of practice in writing blogs, writing social media posts, not both on my own and directing a team to do it. And we know at Infomedia, a lot of our clients say, I love my website, but I'm being told that I need to blog, that I need to be on social media, and I just don't know what to say. So what we're going to talk about today is I'm going to be walking you through how to figure out what you're going to say so that you can create those blog posts, you can create the social media posts that can direct traffic back to your website. So you can find more trainings like this one. We have a lot of good stuff up at training.infomedia.com, and you can view those anytime. There are videos, there are blog articles, there's a lot of good stuff there, so check it out. The slides for today's presentation will also be there. So if you want to take notes, like I like to do, you're welcome to do that. Or if you want to just kick back and enjoy a cup of coffee, which I also like to do, you're welcome to do that, and the notes will be there for you. So just whatever you want to do. All right, so let's get started. So when I told my dad that I was going to do a training, he asked me what the topic was, and I told him it was the no stress way to generate content, and he laughed at me. He was like, no stress, huh? I guess these people don't know you. So apparently I'm not known in my family for being a low stress individual. And that's true. I get very wound up about things. I really want things to go well, and I get really worried about them in advance. So that's accurate. But the way that I deal with that stress is to plan so that I don't feel like I'm thrown into those chaotic situations. So while it is true that I get stressed out really easily, it's also true that I don't really stress about blog and social content because I put a plan together and I know what's coming. I know how to create the content, and I know how to roll with the punches if something goes wrong. So that's what I'm going to teach you guys today. So again, when I was preparing, I was thinking, well, what is something, at this point, I've been blogging and doing social media for quite a while, so it's not that scary to me. But what is something that I'm not great at? And that's cooking, like meal prep. I can't even say the words. So this is just something that I struggle with. How do you work all day, come home? Like, there are a lot of logistics involved, you know. Go grocery shopping, figure out what you're going to eat, get home, make sure you can make it in a specific amount of time. And I was actually like stressing about this while I was putting the talk together, and I realized there are actually a lot of things that you would do with meal prep that are the exact same things you do when you're creating a blog. So you're kind of doing the same thing with both of these things. You have to do a lot of prep beforehand, and the more prep you do before, the happier you're going to be when you have to do it. You know, if you sit there at 5 o'clock every day and think, oh no, I'm going home, I haven't gone to the grocery store, I don't know what I'm going to cook. You have to go to the store, you have to cook, or you have to like get fast food and put something together or grab something that you don't think is good for you. It's kind of like the same with a blog. If you put it off until the morning that you're supposed to blog, chances are you're either going to get really stressed because you're having to pull together all your ingredients, all your ideas at once and deliver them in a way that is interesting and timely, or you're going to put something out that is frankly kind of the fast food of blogging. So just something like garbage, really. Like, neither of these are great choices. So we're going to kind of teach you how to like meal prep for your blog today. So sorry about the food theme. You might want to pause the video and go get a snack. It's all right. Okay, so with either of these things, you want to think about what are your goals. So let's talk about it in terms of meal prep. Your goals could be you want to save money, you're on a budget. You could want to lose weight. You could want to bulk up, so you might be trying a different diet because of that. Now, it doesn't mean you can't do some of these things at the same time, but you do need to choose what your main goal is. So for example, if your main goal is to cut calories, you're going to prepare differently than if your main goal is to bulk up and get more muscle mass. You might have different choices. Now, maybe you can do those things and still be on a budget, or maybe you can't, but like, the point is, it's best to choose one main goal, especially when you're starting out, and just go toward that. And then as you get more used to it, as you get better, you can kind of add more stuff in. But really, a blog is the same way. You want to set a main goal so you know what you're driving at. Yes, blogs can do a lot of different things, but generally speaking, they don't do well at trying to do everything at once. The same is true in life. None of us are great at that. Okay, so what can a blog do? A blog can boost your SEO. Again, this is actually like a big reason that we recommend our clients blog, because Google likes to see new information. Google likes to get an idea of who you are, what you are, what your business does. The more words you can give it to describe that, and the fresher those words are, the better in a lot of instances. And a blog is new, fresh content all the time. So Google doesn't have to guess. It doesn't have to say, well, you used to sell books 6 months ago, but I haven't seen anything new from your website, so I'm not sure if you still sell books. If you're blogging about that all the time, Google knows you still sell books. I used to sell books. Can you tell? So one thing a blog can do is it can boost your SEO. Another thing it can help you do is to reach new clients. Maybe you're trying to build a client base in the first place. Maybe you're trying to build a new client base. Maybe you're using this blog to generate content and to try to bring people in who haven't heard of you before. That's something a blog can do. And it may or may not help with SEO, but it's best to choose which direction you're really going to head in. What is your main point here? You might be trying to reach current clients. So now the strategies you're going to use to write for current clients are slightly different than for new clients. With new clients, you're going to be constantly explaining what you do, making sure there's no guesswork involved. With current clients, you have a different kind of mindset. They sort of know what they're getting, what you're going for. Again, you're not going to write a blog that would make no sense to somebody new if you're going for current clients, or vice versa. You don't want to write a blog that your current clients absolutely hate, but still it's good to know your message will be better if you know who you're talking to. Or again, you might want to promo your product or service. Like, that is another thing that you can do with a blog, but it may not be the same, and you'll have a little bit of a mix of everything. But I would just go ahead and think, at some point, make sure your team knows, make sure you know, what is the main thing I want with this blog. It'll also help you to know, to kind of set your metrics up and to know if your blog is successful. All right, the next thing is to gather your ingredients. So with food, we know what that is. What is available to us? What's in season? What do we have in our freezer or our refrigerator, etc.? We can start off meal planning that way. This is kind of the same for blogs. So who are your writers? A lot of you might say, well, I'm the writer, obviously. That's great. I mean, if you want to write your blog, wonderful. If you're a business owner, definitely think about, do you have the bandwidth to actually write your blog? If you're wondering if you have the bandwidth to write the blog, it's pretty easy to tell. Take some time this week and try to write 2 blogs. You don't have to publish them. You can write them in your email client. Like, just say, I'm going to take 15 minutes or an hour or however long. I'm going to dedicate the time I think it's going to take to write, and see if you can do that. If you can, you might say, I have lots of time, I have focus, I'm a writer, I love this. If you can write a blog top to bottom in an hour or so, twice a week, and you enjoyed it, you're probably fine to do that as a business owner. If you can't, you might want to think, a lot of us think that writing is easier than it is. um, I write for a living, and sometimes even for me, it's like pulling teeth to sit there and actually focus and actually get the work done. So in our minds, we think like, of course I can blog a couple of times a week. Like this will be simple. Just practice it and make sure that it is indeed simple. But kind of the same thing, a lot of people think like, well, I'll just have everybody in my company write a blog. Um, Sometimes that works, but again, I would test that before you base your whole theory on it. You can test it by just assigning people the work, but sometimes that's not going to work for every company. So for example, we used to do that in Infomedia, but then we realized we had developers spending, because not everybody likes to write blog content. You had people like designers, developers, photographers laboring over these blogs because they were so unused to writing them. So they would take maybe 3 or 4 hours to write a blog, whereas I could do it in an hour. So that way we're paying 4 hours of labor because the person writing the blog is just, that's not their skill set, that's not their interest, and they're going to take longer to do it than somebody who's just trained to do it. So if you're using your own workforce, just think about that and realize it may not be the best choice to just say everyone write one kind of thing. Also think about, okay, so if you're saying, well, you're right, I don't want to write it myself, I don't want to use my workforce, who are you going to use? Are you going to pay a writer? Are you going to bring an intern on? There are a lot of options. At Infomedia, we have copywriters on staff. You can get a ghostwriter to write under your name, or you have so many options. But just think about what is your budget when you're moving forward to do that. How often can you publish? That's kind of going to be based on who are your writers and how much are you having to pay them. Because again, if they're on your staff, you still are having to pay them. You're just rolling it into their salary. So how often can you publish? We recommend publishing, as much as you can. Every day would be wonderful. However, that is a big ask for almost all companies that have something else going on. I think we generally recommend once or twice a week. Twice a week is a pretty good, solid, like you're rolling, you're doing a good job. Even once a week, very, very minimum, I would say once a month. Like keep that date current on your website. So when somebody logs in and it's, May of 2019, they see May of 2019. They don't see January of 2019. It shows them that you're up to date. So publish your content about at least once a month, but really we recommend once a week would be once or twice a week is the sweet spot. All right, do you have time for long format? Long format blogs can perform really, really well with Google. That's just a really, really long blog. So that's wonderful. But do you have time to write these kind of term papers as a blog? If you have time, wonderful. You might prefer to do it that way. You might even be able to get away with posting less frequently because you're writing longer blogs. But just think about, what do I have the time to come up with? Okay, where will your photos come from? So for social media and for blogs, we live in a very image-based culture now. So a lot of these formats are going to kind of depend on photography, on images. Where are you going to get those? One option is to take your own photos. Be honest with yourself. Again, just try that. Like, practice it. Make sure that you can actually do it. Taking photos for your own personal Instagram feels completely different than trying to take photos for a business Instagram. It's just, if you've done it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you haven't, just make sure you try first. Take a week again. Practice, say, I'm going to pretend that I would be posting on social. What am I going to take? Snap those photos, see what they look like. So in our current building at Infomedia, we have a little bit better lighting, but where we were before, the light had a really yellow cast to it because it was fluorescent lighting. So we all looked terrible in the pictures. So I had to be honest with myself and say, okay, if we're going to take our own photos, we really can't do it in this building. Or maybe it shouldn't be of people. So we kind of had a different strategy that was based on the kind of photos we could take. We did more of a like flat lay where we put things on a board. I could take them into natural light, get a better shot out of that. So we did that instead of people, even though we love our people here at Infomedia and they're a huge part of what we do, a huge draw, I just couldn't get the photos of them. Now that's different now. So if you can see it if you look at our Instagram and look in the past, you'll see more of that kind of photo. Now you'll see more people because now we have a photographer on staff. So I can call him and say, hey, get this shot, make it look good, and he can do it. So we have different tools now. We have different resources. So what we produce is different. So you can take your own photos. You can hire a photographer. If you're hiring a photographer, most people are on a budget. If you're not, hooray, wonderful, congratulations. If you are on a budget, just plan you'll get more out of your photographer if you plan ahead. So make a list of the kinds of shots that you want. Think through which of your employees are going to be in the shots. Make sure they know they're going to be in the shots and they're okay with it. Make sure they know to wear something that is fine to be on camera. Just really, really plan before your photographer gets there, and you'll get a lot more out of that day session or half day session or whatever you're doing with them. Another option is purchase Shutterstock. We don't always recommend stock photography, especially for websites, but you can get away with it a lot more easily on something like a blog. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend choosing Shutterstock for like a social media post. Those I would try to find a way to either take them yourself or hire a professional to get some like really good shots of what you actually do, because on social media it's going to be hard to get traction with a stock photo, especially for something like Instagram. Or you can use a free service. I like to use Unsplash. At Infomedia, we actually, if you go to infomedia.com/blog and just search for, I think, photos or free photos, we have actually 2 or 3 blogs on good free photo services that we recommend. So Unsplash is just unsplash.com. It's just, I like the search. I like what's available. And all the photos in today's presentation actually came from Unsplash. So also, that's a good source. Okay, so what can you make? So say you have resources. So when we're talking about food, we really have all the resources of a grocery store available to us. But we also only have certain skill sets. And while you can technically learn to cook whatever, it's gonna be difficult if you just don't, I don't know how to make a creme brulee. Maybe it's easy, maybe it's not. I have no idea how to make it. So I'm gonna probably make, ice cream sundaes instead. That's my skill level, scooping and pouring on sprinkles. I don't know. But be honest about what you can make. All right. So first, let's think about what's going on in your company. Now, here's where we are really getting to the nitty-gritty of what are you even going to write about. Okay, think about product releases, or if you have a services-based business, same thing, like services that you're releasing. You may not have a lot of product releases consistently. You might have them seasonally, and and instead of just writing one post about this entire launch, you're going to sprinkle them out. So maybe you have a whole launch, and then you make a schedule to say do one every 2 weeks or something like that. Okay, could do product releases, core product offerings. I list that separately because a lot of times we're so focused on whatever's on sale, whatever we're promoting, etc., that we forget about our core products that a lot of people may not know about. Our current clients might have forgotten about them, and even if they didn't, sometimes it's nice to be reminded of something that you already have that you value, like I'm getting such a deal because I have this service already. But new clients may not know about these at all. And we, a lot of times as marketers, forget to talk about them because to us they're old. And then they may never know. They might go 5 years being your client and not know about some of the main things you have to offer. So make sure you're promoting those. You can do employee profiles. That's a pretty easy one. That a lot of times you can just kind of have a bio form. You could do a Google form if you have Google Drive, or you could just send out like an email questionnaire and ask for the responses back, and try to shape those. I mean, I wouldn't just send out a questionnaire and print them as is, because people's answers will vary wildly. Like some people will write huge paragraphs, some people will write 2 words. So just make sure that you get the responses back and plan some time to kind of shape those, but that's a really good place to get content. You can do culture posts. So that's kind of what I'm saying here is internal culture. So at Infomedia, we used to do these what's trending at Infomedia posts, where we would be like, oh, everybody's bringing salad in a jar as their as their lunch, or a lot of us are going to this show that Brad, one of our developers, is going to play this weekend. So just stuff like that. And even though it doesn't relate directly it probably doesn't relate directly to what you're selling. Especially if you have a service-based business, we found that a lot of people really, really connect with that. Like a lot of our clients love hearing things about who our employees are. Our about pages are some of our most trafficked pages that we have on our website. People just really enjoy knowing who they're doing business with, especially when they're doing business on a person-to-person basis. So that can work really well. Again, make sure that the employee is okay with being profiled. And you'll probably want to get an image of that employee. If they have a good bio photo, that can work. You also might want to bring a photographer in. If you know you're going to do this, bring them in for half a day, get everybody's photos taken, and then you'll have those to run later. And also focus on industry news. Other things that are going on in the world that can relate to your business can perform really well for you. All right, think of ways that you can serve your customers. Instructions and trainings are great. Yes, you might have sent instructions in the box, or you might have emailed them with the service or whatever, but it's not going to hurt to also make them available as a blog. It can bring new clients in because they see that you offer this. And it might serve your current clients well too. Maybe, they did the KonMari process, the Marie Kondo on their house, and they threw their instruction books away and they need to find them again. Or maybe they just need a handy way to look for them or whatever. That can be a good thing to post about. Kind of shape it up a little bit, make it a little bit more interesting, but you can kind of repackage that. I'm a huge fan, by the way, of repackaging the content that you're already presenting. If you're presenting another way, see if there's a part of that, or if you can change it slightly and also post it as a blog. That way you're not duplicating work. Trainings are great. As you can see, we really believe in trainings at Infomedia. This really helps us. Our clients tend to really like the fact that they can kind of learn on their own and make our product, which is websites, better. So we think that really strengthens that connection. You can also bring a lot of people onto your website through Google this way, because if it's a training for something other people are looking for, they may find your business that way. Give them reasons to love your product. Like even if they've already bought your product, again, it feels really good to think that you've made the right decision. So think about, why do you love your product? Why do you know people love it? Write about that. You can write about new ideas for old products. There's this blog, it's not through IKEA, but it's kind of on taking IKEA furniture and hacking it, using it a different way, basically. And people love that. I used to write a lot of this for Southern Living. We produced products, and then I would write a lot of alternative uses. Maybe we sell a cookbook stand. Well, you can also use this cookbook stand to display a coffee table book on, a mantle or something like that. Just get people to be thinking, realizing that your products have even more value than they already know. Frequently asked questions. This is something else I hit really hard because we forget about it so often. If you have a support department, talk to your support department. Talk to your salespeople. Think about the things that people ask you when you go to a party. Like when you say what you do, what is the first thing they ask you? you know, when I used to say I was a copywriter, people would ask like, oh, do you trademark things? Well, that's a different kind of copywriter. But I could do a blog post on copywriter with a W versus copywriter without the W. Like, if people are already asking the question, that shows that people are interested. They're more likely to Google that and then read an article on it. So think about those frequently asked questions, particularly when it comes to your products. Answer those ahead of time. It can be really great for current and potential customers. Also, come up with tips, alternative uses, how-tos. Those things can relate to your products or not. They can be kind of like an ancillary idea that goes along with it. Like, for example, I'm doing this training about blog and social media content. That's not primarily what we do at Infomedia. We primarily build websites, but blog and social media content obviously goes along really well with that. So we write about that quite frequently. Okay, think about what's going on in the world. Think about how you can connect your business to the broader, like, zeitgeist. It doesn't have to just be about what is going on with you right now. Holidays are a good way to do that. Think through it. Make sure you're not being like really silly about a religious holiday. But something like, you know, obviously Christmas, Christmas and winter holidays are going to affect what you're writing about. You're going to write about some of those. Your blog schedule is going to be a little bit different. You're probably ramping up sales in general. Internally, you might want to focus on that differently, because if you run a brick and mortar store, you're most likely going to want to write a lot of these blogs ahead of time. So you're just on the floor selling in December. You're not worrying about writing blogs. So it's going to affect internally what you're doing, but also like writing about a holiday just helps you kind of like feel really current. So if your product relates to that at all, you can write about that. You can write about those silly holidays like National Donut Day, that kind of thing. That's a really easy way to get a social media post, to get like an internal culture post. Buy donuts, take a picture of a donut and coffee, or an employee holding a cup of coffee on National Coffee Day or whatever. That's a really easy way to get a post, and it's personalized, it's cute, it's fun, and you didn't have to work that hard to think of what to write about. Think about other product releases. Sometimes when Instagram releases something new, we'll write about it on the Infomedia blog. No, we're not connected with Instagram in any way other than we use it. But we know that our clients are going to be hearing about this and will want to know the answer, so we'll publish that. Not only do our clients want to know the answer, and they like that, but we also get a lot of traffic from those posts because we have a different spin on it, and Google sends people to the page. So if there's a competitor, not a competitor, but if there's another business in your industry that releases something, you can write about that. I would not write about competitor products unless you're trying to get into a war, but you can write about other things that are being released that kind of, you know, people are using at the same time as your product. Same kind of thing with innovations in culture or technology. If they relate to your product, even in a general way, you can write about that. Meetups and local events are great. We write about this. We actually do an events calendar on the Infomedia site, so that if you are in Birmingham, you can get ideas for local events from that. So we do like a breakdown of, here are 15 to 20 things that are going on that you might be able to promo on your site. That post gets a lot of traffic for us too. Now, I would say use great caution when posting about news events. You might want to just say you don't do it, especially if you have a team and your team is people who are not trained as copywriters or as journalists. It's just really easy to accidentally say something horrible on social media or on your blog when you're trying to tie your product into something in the news. So in general, unless you're working with professionals, I would stay away from posting about news events, stuff in the news. Oh yeah, here's that calendar, and you can find it at infomedia.com/blog. We post this once a month, so This just has a few things that we think that our clients might want to do a blog post or a social media post on. Okay, now think about what habits you can create. All of this stuff is well and good, but if you're trying to reinvent the wheel every single time you're writing a post or doing social media, we're not going to do it. We're all busy. We have other things going on. So the more habits we can create, the more likely we are to actually do this stuff, if we can make it a little bit second nature. Okay, so repeatable content is great because, again, you're not having to sit there and think, oh gosh, like what am I going to write about today? You already have some of those things to plug in. So employee bios, like we said, are a great way to do that. If you have like 12 employees and you spotlight one once a month, I mean, you've got at least one blog post a month. Product spotlights, kind of the same things. If you have 36 products, you can have 4 products a month. I hope I'm doing the math correctly because I'm doing it in my head. But you get the idea. If you do them, don't just do them in like a big clump. That's not interesting for your audience. But if you spread them out throughout the year, that also creates a more repetitive, like a cycle for you that isn't so hard to like have to start from square one every single time. You can write these ahead of time if you want to. Like actually, when we're promoting our lunch and learns, we have them once a month, and we usually write those blog posts at the same time and then kind of just schedule them, and then right before they're going to go up, we get in and edit the post, add something hopefully a little more fresh, that kind of thing. So the work is the lion's share of the work is already done. Okay, you can do a new spin on an old product or service. You can make a list of those and maybe do one a month or one every couple months or whatever. Industry updates, the same thing. Like maybe you have it on somebody's schedule to look for industry updates until maybe have 3 ideas that you could get a blog post on, something like that. Okay, what's worked for infomedia? We used to do, like, we called it tip of the week, which was just a random tech tip. It would just be something we heard from around the office, something somebody uses, and they were on all kinds of different subjects, so we just called them tip of the week. It worked really well for us for a while. We had that what's trending at Infomedia. That's what I told you before. We did like 5 things that we were just really liking here. And our events calendar is a repeatable post too that does really well for us. Okay, so I would also maybe consider thinking about a theme. So this has been something we've done the past couple of years at Infomedia that has really helped us. Okay, so to take it in the food analogy, if you're trying to think of a meal for every single night of the week, you're just sitting there like, I don't know, what do we like? It's harder to come up with it than if you say, okay, maybe Monday is breakfast for dinner night, Tuesday is Taco Tuesday, Wednesday is going to be soup and sandwiches, Thursday is, I don't know. Why can't I think of meals now? Thursday, we are going to eat out. Friday's pizza night. Okay, so if you take those main categories, suddenly, and you kind of just do that every week, suddenly you can have, like, it's easy to put a twist on things. You're still having different meals every day, but you have like a parameter. So, maybe you're going to have like pork tacos this Tuesday, and next week you're going to have taco salad. But like it's Taco Tuesday, so you're only thinking about that. It makes it a lot easier to figure out what you're going to have every meal. And the same is kind of true for your blog calendar. So what we do at Infomedia is we have a theme every month, and it's a loose theme, but we say maybe one month is going to be about blog and social media. Maybe one month is going to be about photography. One month is going to be about security. So loosely, now sometimes we step out of that, but loosely we stick to that topic so that when we're trying to think of ideas, we have a parameter. So it has made thinking of ideas a lot easier. Another benefit it's had for us is we're not forgetting about entire sections of our business. So what we used to do a couple of years ago is just sit in a room and think, okay, who has blog ideas? It was hard to come up with. And we ended up covering the same stuff all the time, like blogging, social media, and photography, just because it's kind of it's it's interesting, fun. It's easier to come up with a fun idea about photography than it is to sit there and be like, you know what I've really been wondering about? Passwords. Like we don't usually wonder a lot about passwords. So we were leaving off sections like security isn't something that was coming to mind all the time, but it's a hugely important part of our business. It's really important for our clients and it drives traffic to the website. So now we have a security month. Now, it's not full of boring articles. We actually come up with some interesting articles. We're just forcing our minds to go to a place that we weren't naturally going. So we really like that. I just realized my computer isn't plugged in. All right, so we're going to try not to let the computer go to sleep in the middle of the presentation. Okay, so pick a theme for the month. This can help you to build that calendar. So this is how you build the calendar. First, you set the theme. So if my theme is security, I'll say like, this is the security month. Then you place date-specific content. So if there's a holiday this month, if we have a product launch, etc., just write those on the calendar. When do those need to happen? That's important to do because a lot of times if we have a product launch, we may not think about it until the day the product's launching. That's not the day to write the blog. Like you want to have the blog written ahead of time, vetted by whoever needs to vet it internally, edited, have a photo on it. So you probably want to write that like a week or two before. So place when you're going to run the blog so that you know to backdate when you're having the content due. And then add things you need to promote or communicate. So if you know that, okay, so maybe in infomedia, we know that a lot of people are, we have a lot of e-commerce sites, like people selling things. And we know Christmas is getting close and that people are going to need to get their Christmas content ready. So do like a holiday banner and things like that. You usually have to do that in the fall so that it's ready by Christmas. So maybe this is the time that we need to communicate that to our clients. So things that are timely that we're going to need to share, make sure those are on your calendar too. Now, after you have that, you have your theme, you have everything that you need to promote that month, then you fill in the gaps. You also put in those, if you know you're going to have an employee spotlight, things like that, put those in wherever you have holes. Okay, so filling in the gaps is kind of where that theme comes into play. So I pulled some sample blogs. This month's theme that I'm profiling here was tune up your website. So we had a whole bunch of blogs on just easy, quick ways to like tune up your site. So here are some of the blogs we ran that month that applied to that. So one was on redesigning your website, which logins you need. So again, if you're making small changes, you'll need to be logging into your site. Some free stock photo sites. That's actually one of the blogs I was talking about earlier. You can find that on our site. How to create a great sitemap and how to use WordPress better. So all of those were tied to the theme. We came up with those because we said our team is tuning up your website. What do people need to do to tune up their website? So we created these blogs. Now in the same month, we also ran a couple that didn't fit the theme at all. It's totally fine to not fit your theme. So we ran something on Pi Day because Pi Day is March 14th and this was in March. And we had like a St. Patrick's Day beer tasting. We ran that on St. Patrick's Day. So those things were tied to specific days. So I'm going to put them on the days that where they need to live and work the other content around them. And you would do the same thing. If something came up that month that is a really great industry post or is just like a really good, interesting story that relates to your product, definitely don't stick with the theme no matter what. The theme is just there to help you come up with an idea if you don't have one. You don't have to stick with it, and you don't need to tell your clients either. They don't need to know that this is security month. You only call it security month so that your internal team can kind of have a guide for creating posts. So it's just a tool. It's not necessarily a marketing scheme. All right, so then you want to set up your calendar. So when you're scheduling, again, think about who's writing it. Think about, again, go back to the beginning of the presentation and think about the resources that you have. So if you are one writer, if you're a blogger, or if you're a small business owner, you do freelance work, you have a brick and mortar, whatever, just be honest about your limitations. Know that you're already running a business, you're probably doing a whole lot already. So if you make something like, I'm going to blog every single day, chances are you're just going to get overwhelmed and quit. That is worse than not doing it at all. So just make sure you're being honest and planning around your life. It's fine to start slow. It's fine to start, say, I want to do a blog every 2 weeks. That's okay. If you want to be more frequent later, you can always do that. Just set like be reasonable about what you think you can do. Okay, if you have a team of writers, what I have found works best for us is have the content due 1 week before you're actually going to run the content. Especially if your writers, if you have a team of, if you are working with professional writers, this is different. Professional writers should be turning their stuff in on time. It's still going to need to be edited. So you still don't want it to be due on the day that it's running generally, but that's a different story. But honestly, a lot of our clients are running small businesses. They have people who like writing for them, but who aren't necessarily professional at it. So give them a deadline of a week out. That way they have time to be late. So we have people writing for us who maybe they have, something came up at work that was really urgent, or they had something due, they had a report due, whatever it is. You want to be able to say like, okay, I get it, it's cool. Like for a day or two, they have a grace period without you getting like super stressed out about it. Also, that gives you time to find a photo that goes with it, to search a free photo service, or to search Shutterstock, or to take the photo. All of those are going to take some time. And you have time to incorporate some SEO. So if you are choosing to if SEO is the main driver for your blog, or if you've paid for it, you have some keywords, you know what you're optimizing for, you can kind of tweak those blogs, rewrite a little bit, or you can leave the blog how it is, but make sure you're adding metadata, meta descriptions, writing a good headline, making sure you add alt text to the photos, that kind of thing. Okay, once you have it ready, you can also schedule it in WordPress. So this is what it looks like in WordPress, and you can see here, if you just edit the publishing line, you can edit when it's publishing. So I usually publish mine early in the morning, but you can schedule those a couple of days out, or you can schedule it as far out as you want, really. Another thing I'd recommend is do the equivalent of, we're all meal planning, but sometimes we just want to order a pizza or have a frozen pizza or whatever. So it is a good idea to have an equivalent in the blog world. Keep some, I call it evergreen content. It's just content that always stays fresh. A blog about Christmas would not be evergreen content, but for us, a blog about maybe security, password security, or a blog about how to log into WordPress or something like that would always work. So we'll just have somebody write that and kind of keep it, I'll set it up, pull the photo, write the headline, all of that stuff, but just have it ready on the back end so that if something falls through, I can just sub this instead. That's also helpful, by the way, if you write an article that then there is a news story that seems like it would be a connection, but it's not, but you feel like it's you feel like it's on the line, you can easily pull that story and sub in your evergreen photo. Another thing you can do if things fall through is skip a day. It's good. Consistency and a regular schedule is what we're going for here, but it's not like Google isn't sitting there giving you a black mark because you skipped a day. It doesn't know. It's not like that. So in almost all cases, for almost all of our clients, If you're planning on publishing on every Thursday and you miss a Thursday, it's not that big of a deal. Just make a plan that it doesn't keep happening. Okay, another way that I do meal planning for 2 or 3 nights a week is to just not plan meals and get some Blue Apron meals. They just deliver everything to me and then I make it into a meal. You can do that. You can do a form of that for this stuff too. If you've watched this whole talk and you're just like, oh, like, why? Like, I hate this. I'm sorry for one thing. I hope you got a good snack. But also, you don't have to do it. The copywriting, ghostwriting, which is having somebody else write for you and then put your name on it, which is okay. It's fine. They can interview you, and then it's still your words. It's still your thoughts. And you still get to build your brand without actually having to do the writing. You can also change things. You don't have to just take it. It's basically like a kind of a rough draft, and then you can write what you like into it. Photography, video, any of this stuff you can outsource. Infomedia, of course, would be happy to help you. And we can hook you up with writers, photographers, videographers who can either help you in a pinch or supplement what you're doing. You could say, we're going to write most of the blogs, but I want to get one a month written for us just to take some of the pressure off. All of this is available to you. All right. I really hope this has been helpful. I love to read client blogs, see what you guys are saying on on social media and on Infomedia. You can find my blogs when I still write them. Mostly my team writes them now, but they're at infomedia.com. And you can also find more trainings in our training center as always. Thank you so much for your time. I enjoy sharing this, and I hope that you guys have found it useful. Bye.